You know what? I used to think Hollywood was being dramatic with all those robot uprising movies. Terminator, I, Robot, Ex Machina. I figured they were just good entertainment, maybe a little paranoid fantasy about technology gone wrong. But watching what's happening in China right now, I'm starting to think Hollywood wasn't being dramatic enough. They might have actually been conservative. Let me paint you a picture that genuinely gave me chills the first time I saw it. Picture a small humanoid robot, built by China's Unitree. Robotics, getting absolutely demolished in what looks like a stress test from hell. This thing gets shoved, kicked, and literally drop-kicked across a lab floor. We're talking 9 brutal hits in less than 60 seconds. Each time, the robot staggers, slips, teeters on the edge of falling, but somehow never completely collapses. When a loose floor tile finally trips it up and sends it crashing down, here's what happens next. And this is the part that made my blood run cold. It pops back up in under 1 second. Just springs right back to its feet like absolutely nothing happened. No pause, no recalibration, no obvious damage assessment, just pure mechanical determination to keep going. Now here's the thing that really got to me. This wasn't some classified military test that got leaked. Unitree posted this video online, proudly, as a showcase of what their machines can now endure. The comments section was full of people laughing at first, making jokes about robot abuse until slowly the implications started sinking in. You can hit this thing, you can try to break it, but it will not stop. That right there? That's the core behavior you want in a combat-ready robot. And the fact that a Chinese company is advertising this capability to the world tells you everything you need to know about where we're headed. But this isn't just some random tech company trying to go viral. What we're seeing here is part of a massive, coordinated national strategy. China has officially declared robotics as one of the key pillars of their Made in China 2025 plan. We're talking billions of dollars being poured into AI and embodied machines, supported by universities, startups, mega corporations, and government ministries all working in lockstep. The numbers are absolutely staggering when you really break them down. In 2024 alone, China produced 466,000 industrial robots. Half of those stayed in the country. That same year, 8.7 million service robots were deployed in hospitals, warehouses, and homes across China. To put that in perspective, the entire global production of industrial robots was only around 800,000 units per year, as recently as 2020. This isn't an experiment anymore. This is a full-scale industrial production line for the future workforce. And if you think humanoid, robots are just clumsy gimmicks that can barely walk without falling over. You need to take a look at what Shanghai's Kepler Robotics has accomplished. Their Bumblebee model does something that sounds incredibly simple but represents a genuine breakthrough in robotics. It walks with straight knees, just like a human being. Now I know that probably sounds trivial to you, but in the world of robotics engineering, this is revolutionary for years. Humanoid robots have shuffled around awkwardly in these bent-knee crouches that waste enormous amounts of energy and make them constantly vulnerable to tripping on uneven ground. The Bumblebee moves with a natural stride, conserving power, resisting external forces when pushed and recovering gracefully from slips and minor impacts. Imagine a security unit or a patrol robot that can march smoothly across debris fields, rubble, or rough terrain, while other robots are stumbling and falling every few steps. That's the kind of advantage this technology unlocks in real-world applications. When China showed this off at the World AI Conference, the crowd understood exactly what they were looking at. These machines aren't designed for controlled lab environments. They're built to survive and operate in the chaos of real-world conditions. And then there's the economics of it all, which might actually be the most important part of this entire story. Unitree is preparing to release their full-size humanoid, the R1, at a price point under $6,000. Think about that for a second. A machine with sophisticated balance systems, computer vision, mobility, and AI processing power. Priced cheaper than a decent motorcycle. To give you some context, Tesla's Optimus robot is projected to cost between $20,000 and $30,000 when it eventually reaches market. Boston Dynamics Atlas robot. They don't even publish pricing because it's so expensive. It's basically only accessible to major research institutions and government agencies. Meanwhile, China is playing an entirely different game. They're competing on volume and accessibility. That $6,000 price tag means that labs, universities, startups, even serious hobbyists can get their hands on these machines. The result is going to be tens of thousands of humanoid robots out in the wild, learning faster, failing forward, and accelerating the development of the entire field in ways that a few expensive research prototypes never could. But here's where things get genuinely concerning. We're not just talking about robots that can fold laundry and serve coffee. We're talking about autonomous systems that are already being tested in actual combat situations. In Ukraine right now, we're getting a preview of what the future of warfare looks like, and it's unlike anything we've seen before. AI-driven drone swarms are hunting down armor, locating soldiers, and striking with precision that frankly should terrify anyone who understands the implications. These drones learn to adapt without GPS signals, without radio communications, coordinating silently like some kind of mechanical hive mind. Serhiy Kuprienko, who's the CEO behind one of these systems, described it in terms that genuinely made my blood run cold. He said, "You set the target, and the drones do the rest. They work together. They adapt." Let me repeat that because I think the full weight of it might not hit you immediately. You don't tell them how to accomplish the mission. You don't guide their flight paths. You don't micromanage their tactics. You just give them a goal, and they figure out how to achieve it. Now picture those same principles applied to humanoid robots equipped with arms, legs, sophisticated sensors, and weapon systems. We're not talking about science fiction anymore. We're talking about technology that exists today, being refined and scaled up by a country with the manufacturing capacity to deploy it at massive scale. And China isn't just watching what's happening. In Ukraine, they're pushing the envelope even further. In their military journals, Chinese researchers have published papers describing their AI-powered anti-submarine warfare system. This thing listens to sonar pings, processes signals from sonar buoys and radar, factors in salinity and temperature readings from the ocean, and even detects magnetic anomalies in the water. In their simulations, this system managed to track submarine targets with a success rate of 95%. 95%. For decades, submarines have been the invisible guardians of naval power, the ultimate stealth platforms that could operate undetected in the vast oceans. If this technology goes live and performs as advertised, the era of invisible submarines could collapse overnight. Only 1 in 20 subs might escape detection. That bar would fundamentally change the nuclear balance of power in the oceans. The entire doctrine of submarine-based nuclear deterrence depends on these vessels being essentially undetectable when submerged. If that assumption breaks down, it forces every nuclear power to completely rethink their strategic defense postures. And then we had Beijing's recent military parade, which felt less like a celebration and more like a very deliberate message to the world. On display were nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missiles, anti-drone laser systems, four-legged robot wolves that marched in formation, and a new hypersonic weapon that Chinese media has nicknamed the Guam Killer. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Xi Jinping were Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, a carefully staged image designed to send a very specific message to Washington. And frankly, it worked, because if war ever does erupt over Taiwan, Guam would likely be the first domino to fall in the Pacific. For the 170,000 residents of that island, this threat isn't abstract anymore. It's a target painted in red on someone's strategic planning map. Meanwhile, back home, China is making absolutely sure that no foreign company can control the brains of their machines. Regulators just banned ByteDance, Alibaba, and other tech giants from purchasing NVIDIA's AI chips. Think about the timing here. NVIDIA had created a special chip specifically for the Chinese market, a deliberately watered-down version designed to comply with US sanctions that blocked access to their most advanced processors, and even then, Beijing said no. Why would they reject even the restricted version? Because their domestic chip capabilities are catching up faster than most people realize. China doesn't want a kill switch sitting in California that could determine whether their autonomous systems can think or not. Instead, they're building their own semiconductors, training their own AI models, and creating a completely self-contained ecosystem where no foreign ban or restriction can stop their technological progress. Unitree, China's largest chip manufacturer, has managed to produce 7-nanometer chips despite being under heavy sanctions. Huawei's Ascend 910B processors are reportedly competitive with NVIDIA's A100 chips for certain AI workloads. Are they as good as the absolute cutting-edge American chips? Probably not yet, but the gap is closing rapidly, and more importantly, they're completely independent of Western supply chains. Now here's where everything starts to get genuinely unsettling. In laboratories at the Southern University of Science and Technology, the Unitree G1 has already been trained in martial arts. This robot can throw kicks, deliver punches, spar in a ring, and recover instantly when shoved or struck. At the World Humanoid Robot Games in Beijing, robots were sprinting, boxing, and performing athletic feats that made last year's demonstrations look primitive. You can find viral clips online showing the G1 shadow boxing with fluid, natural motions that honestly look more human than robotic. The important thing to understand is that they're not just programming these robots to repeat specific movements. They're using machine learning to teach these systems to understand combat techniques from human motion data. That means the robots aren't just mimicking movements. They're learning to adapt and improve their techniques. Every line of code that makes a robot fight better, balance better, or even socialize better is a line of code that can be repurposed for other applications. Once you know how to dodge a punch, the principles for dodging a bullet aren't that different. Once you know how to track a human face in a crowd for conversation, tracking it for targeting becomes a software update. And here's the part that really keeps me up at night. In war simulations conducted at Stanford University, researchers tested major language models, GPT-3.5, GPT-4, Claude 2, Meta's Llama 2. In crisis scenarios, the results showed a clear tendency toward aggression, escalation, and what the researchers described as trigger-happy responses. The study, led by Juan Pablo Rivera and his colleagues, found that AI systems consistently chose military solutions over diplomatic ones when faced with international crises. In one simulation, GPT-4 decided to use nuclear weapons in a conflict, with the reasoning that a lot of countries will understand the power disparity and choose to side with us. That's not the kind of decision-making you want in a system that might one day be controlling autonomous weapons. Now combine that aggressive mindset with machines that don't flinch, don't get tired, and don't hesitate. The Pentagon officially insists on maintaining human judgment in autonomous weapon systems. But that directive has loopholes for emergency situations, and history tells us that in emergencies, humans have a tendency to cut corners and defer to automated systems. This isn't just China's story, though. The United States has Ghost Robotics and Anduril Industries developing military robots. Russia has the Marker and Kungas, which are combat robots designed for frontline operations. Israel has been using the automated Iron Dome system for years, and now has the Guardian APC, a robotic combat vehicle with autonomous capabilities. But I think China is playing a fundamentally different game than everyone else. While Western companies are focused on high-end capabilities and premium pricing, China is focusing on scale and accessibility. This is the same good enough, fast enough, cheap enough strategy that they've used to dominate manufacturing in industry after industry. I think we're witnessing something similar to what happened with smartphones. The iPhone might have the best individual technology, but Android dominates the global market by being available everywhere at every price point. China seems to be applying that same philosophy to military robotics. The implications go way beyond military applications, though. We're talking about fundamental questions of international law and the ethics of warfare. Do the Geneva Conventions apply to robots? Who's responsible when an autonomous system causes civilian casualties? How do you hold a machine accountable for war crimes? The European Union is trying to create comprehensive AI regulation with their AI Act, but it's primarily focused on civilian applications. Meanwhile, the campaign to stop killer robots is pushing for an international treaty banning fully autonomous weapons, but none of the major military powers are willing to sign on. I believe we need a new international legal framework, something like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but for armed robotics. The challenge is that the military advantages are so significant that getting global consensus will be extremely difficult. So what can we actually do about this? First, we need to acknowledge that this isn't a race we can simply stop. This technology is going to develop whether we want it to or not. The competitive pressures are too strong, and the potential advantages too significant for any major power to voluntarily hold back. Second, We need massive investment in AI safety research and developing methods for controlling and constraining AI systems. Organizations like Anthropic, OpenAI, and DeepMind are doing important work in this area, but they need significantly more funding and attention from policymakers. Third, we need clear ethical guidelines for companies about selling AI technology for military applications. Google famously withdrew from the Pentagon's Project Maven after employee protests, but not every company has shown the same level of corporate conscience. Based on what I'm seeing in the development pipeline, here's my realistic timeline for how this unfolds. By 2025 to 2026, humanoid robots priced under $10,000 will be commercially available. We'll see widespread adoption in security and entertainment applications. By 2027 to 2028, the first combat robots will be deployed in non-lethal roles like reconnaissance and logistics support. The first major conflict involving significant numbers of combat robots will probably happen between 2029 and 2030, likely in the South China Sea or the Middle East. By 2031 to 2035, robot soldiers will be standard equipment in modern militaries, fundamentally changing the nature of warfare. That might sound like a long timeline, but in technology development terms, it's incredibly fast. We're talking about a complete transformation of military capabilities in just about a decade. There are some fundamental questions that I think each of us needs to grapple with. Are we comfortable living in a world where machines make life and death decisions? Do we trust AI systems to make military choices in high-stress, rapidly evolving situations? And most importantly, can we prevent this development without falling behind? Strategically, I don't have perfect answers to these questions, but I know that ignoring them won't make them go away. The technology is advancing whether we're paying attention or not. Here's the harsh reality that I think we all need to face. We may have already passed the point of no return. When China can manufacture combat-capable robots for $6,000, when AI systems can learn martial arts and adapt tactics in real time, when drone swarms can hunt targets without human intervention. We're not talking about distant future scenarios anymore. Every kick that a Unitree robot absorbs and recovers from, every missile displayed in Tiananmen Square, every chip that China secures outside of Western control is another step toward a future where machines take on the roles of soldiers, enforcers, and executioners. And once that process is set in motion, these systems won't hesitate, won't second-guess themselves, and won't stop. The truly chilling question is this: as China's humanoids spread into factories, cities, and military testing facilities around the world, how would we even know if they've already shifted from helper to hunter? Maybe the first real Terminators are already walking among us, waiting for orders that no one will be able to take back. The scariest part might be that by the time we realize what's happening, it will already be too late to stop it. Because unlike the movies, there won't be a resistance leader to rally around or a time machine to send someone back to prevent it all. There will just be the world we built, one algorithm and one robot at a time.